is the P and the 3 R's, which comes down to protect, relate, regulate, and reflect, right? So effectively, it's all about letting the kids know they've got a safe space to talk to you. So you got to make sure that the environment is safe, they trust you.
Welcome to Anxious Black Belt, podcast that focuses on karate, mental health, and everything in between. Today's guest, John McLean. Hello, John. How are you? Long time no see.
Not too bad, thank you. How's everything
not
for you?
Not too bad.
Yeah.
It's good for me. You're not too bad. You're doing great.
Yeah, living the dream, as I say.
So last time when we spoke, you had 1 or 2 locations in the schools. Fast forward a couple of years, and you are in your own building, several locations, several projects, and no time for social media.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
How did it happen? Well, to be honest, it's just been a constant process. Trying to keep the club growing, working with schools, social services, that kind of things. Trying to get our name out there. Trying to, just show that we're the kind of local guys to come to for people who want to do martial arts for mental health and need to improve their mental health through any means necessary. And martial arts is obviously a good avenue for that kind of stuff. And the work that we're doing with other agencies has kind of validated and shown that kind of stuff. And then, basically trying to make a name for ourselves, promoting mental health, working with neurodiverse children and adults. Just by being the way we are, we're drawing people in by trying to be the mental health place in terms of martial arts, as it were.
Can you take us through the step by step how it kind of unfolds? You moving from 1 location or 2 locations to having a building to working with the council. Now, if I remember properly, you're the only one in the UK, which makes me jealous, to be a trauma-informed karate club recognized by a government, right?
Yeah. So the qualification that we've got with trauma-informed schools. So that's the key talking point. Obviously, so going back to the beginning of it, we've obviously always been sort of mental health focused and trying to give our members a space to be the people they need to be, particularly with children. Obviously, school systems, they're not great for children who are on the spectrum, who are autistic, ADHD, that kind of thing, because they've got to sit still and rigid all day. So through just working with good martial arts and doing the mental health focus on that kind of stuff, we've been able to attract a decent amount of members. And we were working from a rugby club kind of community social hall to begin with. Eventually, the classes just got too big, and we started looking nearby for other locations. And as it happens, there was 1 location that we were looking at early on. This is before the pandemic, where we're looking at a warehouse next to the local shop. While we were there, we were looking for a electricity supply thing, and the estate agent that was taking us around found that there was another building upstairs which had like the trip switch boxes and everything like that in, but that was also vacant, and it's an old council office. So you had like an enormous meeting room, a separated IT room with a partition wall in between, and a couple of other rooms that we could use for offices and that kind of stuff. And it was completely by fluke that we found it. At that point, we weren't in any position to move to such a big premises, but gradually we moved on, survived the pandemic, again, doing stuff specifically with mental health in mind to keep members sort of training. We wouldn't just do Zoom classes, but we check in regularly. We'd have specific meetings just to check in how everybody's getting on, a social type of thing once a week where people could turn up, adults obviously turn up, crack open a beer, and have a chat through everything that was going on. We'd have the same kind of social for kids, obviously without the beer,
that's disappointing.
Yeah, well, I know kids. I can imagine drunk kids would be quite funny, but yeah. So throughout that, we would check-ins. We made it through the pandemic, keeping like decent members, keeping in touch. We had a lot of people, get in touch and say it was an invaluable thing that we were able to keep going throughout the pandemic and everything. Fast forward a little bit longer, pandemic's over, we start growing again in the physical location, still at the rugby club. And eventually we just got to the point between the kids and adults where we had to look for a permanent home, a permanent base. During this, we had a local leisure centre reach out to us asking whether we'd be able to do classes there. So we started classes. The main locations in Caernafon and Anglesey. And then the second one is in Beaumaris, which is a bit of a smaller community. But yeah, we've got a nice little thriving club over there. Again, heavy neurodiversity focused, heavy mental health focused there. Just giving kids the sort of space they need to express themselves. And then in September this year, we finally signed a lease on the big building, moved all the pads and equipment and everything over. We were lucky to run one project with social services over a summer called the Summer of Fun. And the funding that we received from that was able to buy mats and pads and stuff. So we were able to move all of that across. All that kind of stuff just came from our work with visiting local schools, having social services members bring their kids to us in class. And we've just grown from there, really, going from strength to strength, and just keeping the mission going.
Oh, the building is very, very impressive. I'm really impressed with it and jealous a little bit, obviously. But it's nice to see that you are so busy and your team grown, or you doing your own, or you had the what was his name? Kale?
Oh, Caleb, yeah,
Ah, Caleb, yeah.
Poor Caleb's still knocking him out, yeah. So I'll say he's a product of the product. So I mean, you've met him. He won't mind me saying this. It's probably one of the nicest things I'll say about him. He's a bit of a character. But, we've become good friends. But he's one of our sort of I don't know how to explain it. Apart from being the product of the product, the martial arts, the same experience that I've had. I've never been diagnosed neurodiverse, but like anybody who's met me within the first like 10 minutes kind of goes, oh, I think that guy's autistic, and I kind of wear that with a badge of honor. In that what we've been able to achieve with the martial arts through it's made me basically, as the book that I've got is called Made on the Mats, and it's true, and the same thing can be said of him. So yeah, the martial arts has given us an outlet for our nerdery and given us a sort of confidence boost, and as well being a safe space to kind of be ourselves and to obsess over the things we need to obsess about and develop from there. And then the team on the whole, we've got 6 or 7 instructors working underneath us and a handful of teenagers who come in and help here and there. Again, we've whatever it is about the club, we kind of managed to draw talent. So everybody, our main instructors, we've got one who's come up to the system again. She's started with low confidence issues, challenges growing up and all that kind of stuff. Now she's been able to turn around from not speaking to me for the first 3 months of training through her shyness to leading whole classes all by herself, which is obviously a huge win. Then we've gained 2 instructors who both initially started their children in classes and kind of went, oh, by the way, I used to teach martial arts as well. I'm a black belt in XY style. They've full on converted over to the way that we do things. Obviously, we try to take the more practical sort of blended approach to everything as opposed to the more rigid traditional version. They've enjoyed that, enjoyed the kind of space that we present, and promoted to black belt in our style after a quick retraining process. Again, most of the teams on the spectrum one way or another, so it's given them another outlet to thrive and help other people, because kind of we get it, right? We know what neurodiversity is like. We know what living with it is like. We know what the needs are. It just all happens. People find a safe space and they want to jump on and get involved and help other people kind of thrive in the same way that we have, working around our particular like brain styles and thinking styles.
It is very easy for me to say, oh, you've got the overnight success, right? Everybody says, oh, look at him, he's got the overnight success. What were the challenges for you to grow? Because you relatively quickly grow. at least from somebody who it's not in your shoes. He's sitting around the other side of the screen. You're like, look, it's only 3 years and he's grown, exploded, right? But what
Sure.
was the challenges you faced with all the growth?
I'll be honest. I mean, it's still challenges, right? And when you say, it seems like an overnight success, but it's a journey, man. I've got this saying that I keep coming back to, and it's we're always getting there. Getting there, getting
Mhm.
there, getting there. Kind of challenges. It's tough because obviously, as with any martial arts clubs, you see peaks and troughs. You see periods of growth, you see periods of not so much growth. So more than anything, it's the kind of business side of things that I've always struggled with. I've always had like an enormous passion for teaching martial arts. I've had an enormous passion for working with people, helping people out, and that kind of stuff, and letting them, I don't know, express themselves through the martial arts. But then, as with most martial arts instructors, we don't get into it for the business side of things, right? We get into it because we enjoy the martial arts and we can spend a lot of our time doing it. The main challenge is mostly just like transitioning from a more traditional sort of rigid style that we had in our previous organization, retooling the syllabus to fit a style that's kind of suits me and expresses my sort of preferred way of doing the martial arts. And then just kind of dealing with the sort of daily ups and downs of business and that kind of stuff. They're the main challenges, trying to hold it everywhere, raising 3 kids, all that kind of stuff. It's the same challenges most people are going through, but keeping that sort of fire lit with when I'm on the mats and keeping everybody going is kind of the main win out of everything.
Mm. How did you found out and get enrolled into the trauma informed qualification or kind of environment?
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that the main thing that led me to it, I'd heard a lot about trauma information, mental health and stuff. It just comes through on social media feeds and all that kind of stuff anyway. But what had happened is I'd signed myself up to be a governor at my kids' schools. And because I wanted to align ourselves as much as possible with the sort of best teaching practices and everything like that, I signed myself up for virtually every course that they offered in training. So my tenure as a governor didn't last long because as soon as the word policy came up, I realized I was a little bit out of my depth with it. They were talking stuff that was way over my head. But one of the courses that came up early on was the trauma-informed schools. So on Anglesey, we are what we call a trauma-informed island, where all the schools on the island are trauma-informed. They've all been through the diploma the same way as I have, and they did a presentation on it in a school for the governors to find out, to educate us about what kind of policies and stuff are going on, how to get best practices and what to kind of push in the schools. And I just happened to ask after one of the sessions, look, I've done work with social services before. I'm curious to learn more about it. What can I do? And I was lucky. The woman who was leading the course said, we're actually after community members right now. So people out in the community, not just in schools. We've got a course coming up, and the council will fully fund it for you because we've got a couple of spaces and names available. So on the spot, she forwarded a link to me. I got signed up in the course. And that's who it was. It was a couple of sessions over the course of 6 to 8 months. And we turn up, we do full day intensives. So a lot of theory education about traumas and how to manage them, how to help the kids deal with them. It's geared a lot towards children because it's based in schools. But a lot of the practices work in everyday life with adults and stuff like that. The principles are all the same. So we did the course with a bunch of other school teachers, other community organisations, members of the council. And over the course of the weeks, just learned so much about what trauma is, how to handle it, how it manifests in the body, how it's a physical thing as much as a mental thing, and how to kind of coach children through how they're feeling, through things like like things that seem like play, but are giving kids expression to how they're feeling, because they don't always have the words they need to express how they're feeling, so that we can manage moving around that. So yeah, in short, it was through the council, and I was really, really grateful to be fully funded for it. A lot of things in my life happen sort of serendipitously, right? We happen to find the big location. I happen to be in the right governor's meeting for to get us prepared. So yeah, just good luck, really.
Mhm. Is that program only to Anglesey, or is it like a national wide? You don't know?
It's worldwide. There's trauma informed. So the one that we're with is the course that I did is TIS Wales, Trauma Informed Schools Wales. There is one across the UK, courses across the UK, but it's a global thing. There's stuff in the States, stuff across Europe. From what I understand, Australia is one of the biggest countries for trauma information and education. From what I understand, they're about 20 years ahead of the game compared to where we are right now with understanding and implementing best practices.
Yeah, I've got a friend, Georgia Very, had her on a podcast. She does trauma informed kickboxing,
Oh, there you go. Yeah, yeah,
uh, and they registered charity, and yeah, they've got a bit of ahead of us.
yeah. That's it's insane. Man. The stuff that we don't know is bonkers, and it's almost disappointing in a way that this knowledge is out there, but it's not being implemented or widely spread as it should be.
Mm.
When it comes in terms of mental health, with the kind of environment and culture, and the way we're kind of gradually moving towards better mental health practice in education and community clubs and stuff like that, that we're not jumping on every opportunity like this is kind of insane to me. We ought not to be 20 years behind any country with this kind of stuff. It's mega important, man.
For me, I created our Karate for Mental Health toolbox because I got fed up. I done several level 2 qualifications,
Mm.
which give me nothing.
Yeah.
It's all awareness of mental health, awareness of mental health first
Mm.
aid, which literally you ask them later, oh, but what can I do with this? Oh, nothing. It's just you aware of it. So I got
Oh yeah.
level 2 of awareness of being, you know.
Yeah.
So it's bonkers.
I can identify this person's got mental health stuff going on. Full stop. Like there's no guidance on what to do about it and that kind of stuff, I guess. But that's
Mm,
one of the big things from this course. Like, well, the majority of the course is, here's what mental health is, here's what trauma is, but then you got so much. Here's how to do how to deal with it, how to interact on the level of a child, because we got to appreciate that kids' brains aren't anywhere near as advanced as an adult brain. They've got, they haven't got the same kind of reasoning skills. They haven't got the same language understanding. Kids don't know the label to put on a feeling. So if a kid's having
mm,
a bad day, they can appear grouchy, or they can be a bit cheeky. They can start lashing out and stuff because they're not able to talk and understand the way that they're feeling. So
mm,
we as adults, we can kind of distinguish the difference between, okay, I'm feeling angry, frustrated, I'm overwhelmed. There's thousands of nuanced words that we can use to express how we're feeling. But if you ask a kid how they're doing, I'm sad, if they talk to you at all, or I'm angry, so it's just ways about sort of naming, and there's a saying, name it to tame it, right? So
mm,
uh, you ask the kid how they're feeling, you try to kind of, you got to kind of abstract it a little bit, and you can't expect them to say to you, I had a rubbish day at school today. I felt overwhelmed. This child did this to me, which led me to feel, I don't know, anxious about how I was going to be on playground and stuff like that. So there's other ways of trying to get to understand what feeling is going on. Where do you feel it in your body? How does it feel? If you're a particular type of weather, what kind of weather would you be today? So if they say, for example, stormy, right, you could kind of ask them then, stormy, that sounds like a big feeling. Storms are big weather, cloudy. So I wonder whether you're feeling, I don't know, overwhelmed or angry. Are you feeling the flashes? So then what you're doing is you're providing the kids with the language that they can use to talk to you about how they're feeling. And talking it's an incredibly helpful thing for getting through issues in our life. It help us to understand how we're feeling, help other people to be aware of how we're feeling, and how to sort of not to pussyfoot around us, but kind of how to manage themselves around us and how to help us, get out of whatever hole we're in. So it's providing that language for the kids to understand how they're feeling.
So after qualification, you done qualification. How difficult it was to rewire your brain to actually apply it? 'Cause I find in myself that I call myself a qualification collector, right?
Mm.
I like to do qualification. I collect the qualifications, but implementing in them into training and into life is a little bit different story, and it's harder. So how was for you to implement all the information you learn? Was it something easy done, or you had to put a lot of effort into it to actually use it?
Um, I'm sure a lot like you. I didn't find it too hard to implement because my brain is kind of geared that way already, right?
Hmm.
So one of the things, because it's designed for a school setting, there's a lot of information and practices that you'll get on there that don't necessarily translate into a martial arts setting, right? So school teachers, they've got the kids 6 hours a day. They're face to face with them a lot longer than we are. We get them an hour or two a week. So a lot of the kind of drills and techniques that were there weren't directly translatable, but the ones that were, I found that we were doing an awful lot of them already, because we've always been about allowing kids to express themselves, giving them a bit of leeway in the mats. We know that movement is very important to the martial arts, in that you can't really do martial arts without moving.
Hmm.
So a lot of the boxes were already ticked, but what it's given us is a kind of sense of it kind of validated what we were doing and gave us the here's why that works. There were some practices that we'd had to sort of bring into the system, and kind of pick up the pace on stuff we were already doing. So we'd always meet and greet kids by name, for example, make them feel valued. But one of the things that we've got in trauma-informed schools is the P and the 3 R's, which comes down to protect, relate, regulate, and reflect. Right. So effectively, it's all about letting the kids know they've got a safe space to talk to you. So you got to make sure that the environment is safe. They trust you. They know that you're a safe, emotionally available adult that they can turn to if they're having any issues. Then relate is quite similar. So you're trying to build connections with the children, and obviously while keeping like the boundaries and everything like that in place, but trying to build up a degree of friendship and warmth towards them, right? And just let them know that you care. If they go through any sort of issue where they are having a big feeling, then teaching them, I'm a safe adult. Here's some ways to kind of regulate your feelings. Take 3 big breaths. How you is this how you're feeling? Does this sound good to you? So we're trying to teach them how to get out of their kind of big feeling mindset, because you'll know when you're in kind of anxious sort of frustration mode that you can't think straight. We know this, but kids don't exactly know. So we need to teach them self-regulation skills, right? Such as playing, moving, that kind of stuff. And then finally, to sort of help them understand what the feeling was in the first place. And in the future, if you end up feeling like this again, here's some ways to manage. So have them actually reflect, look back, have the words to use their emotions, and kind of guide them into easier regulation and management in the future. So they're
It's
the
very
key
interesting.
principles. Yeah. So, but in terms of implementing it into practice, most of the stuff is already there. We do life skills talks with kids in classes, but kind of gearing a few more of them towards the mental health regulation, understanding their emotions, and that kind of thing.
What results did you see? What's the difference now with working with kids, compared to before you learned that? Do you see like more benefits for them? They're getting more kind of understanding of themselves and maybe better martial arts as well?
Yeah. The biggest thing I think is that we're kind of more connected with the kids. They through having say one a child will have an episode mid class. So we'll know, right, okay, obviously this kid's having a big feeling, he's a little bit overwhelmed at the minute. We'll give them the space to have that feeling, but we'll have a sit down with them. And so, we'll say, are you in a good place to talk right now? We'll have like a short conversation with them, give them what they need, run through the process. And when I say stuff like process, it comes across as if it's kind of artificial or forced what we're doing, but it's not. It's just a bit of a better framework to connect and communicate with the kids and give them the space to communicate with us and get the feelings off their chest. So through doing stuff like that, we found we're able to manage any sort of disruptions in class better, because we know there's no point shouting at this kid. They're in a heightened emotion. Not that we were ever about shouting at kids anyway, but they need, what they need right now is space and to talk about how they're feeling, right? So managing kids' big feelings and keeping class on track, getting them back into class is a lot easier. We become a lot closer to a lot of the children as well, because they find they're opening up to us. We then, if we feel like we've dealt with it there and then, that's one thing. If we feel it's something that needs escalations to the parents, schools and that kind of stuff, we'll take care of that as well. So it's showing the parents as well that we care. Look, Bob's had a difficult time in class today. He mentioned this, that, and the other. It's making you aware, is there anything that we can do to help? It's given us clarity on how the kids are feeling. It's given us the framework for how to help them with therapeutic moments, and it just further show that we care. That's all. That's the big thing about it, is you're building relationships and letting kids know they're safe to express themselves in a and how to express themselves safely moving forward.
I think the key to all the kind of problems, I don't want to say therapy, but to support people with mental health, adults or children, is to have that safe, supportive community, right? If you can go to whatever group you want, but if you find there's a nasty people in there, you're not gonna improve, you're not gonna feel safe, you're not gonna be fine, right? But when you go somewhere, it doesn't matter if it's chess club, football club, or karate club, and you've got that community that welcomes you and allows you, like you said, express yourself. It's much more beneficial to everybody. So I suppose if you find a child that's got trouble, you've got the trauma and stuff like that, you need to refer them as well, or you should refer them. You cannot. You're not a therapy, right? It's not a therapy. You just inform about it, and you've got the options to contact appropriate organizations or parents, or suggest. I suppose we only can suggest. We cannot tell people go there and do that. We can only suggest that there are those options, right?
Yeah. So you've hit on a key point there. We're not therapists, right? But there's nothing to stop any person from having what you call a therapeutic moment, right? So I'm not a therapist. I've not got a degree in psychotherapy, anything like that. But what I can do is help where I can, and kind of ease and soothe things a little bit, and then, like you say, make the appropriate referrals, let parents know, whatever they need. We're just there to support, and it's given us a framework for that more than anything. And one of the important things that you hit on there is the culture. So the community that you turn up to, yourselves, you can't say that martial arts across the board is good for mental health, because I'm sure we've both been involved in martial arts clubs where it's all about ego and like obedience and staying in line and all that kind of stuff, particularly with kids and I don't know, even adults, especially if we're on the spectrum, adults with ADHD and that kind of stuff. We just need to be able to express ourselves and move. So in the workplace, in a school or anything like that, then we've got to sit still. We've got to do this, do that. We get a break when we need when we're told we have the break. But if I feel like I'm like my nervous system's kind of playing up a bit and I need to move and fidget and that kind of stuff, then sometimes I might, like, a kid might be a little bit overwhelmed with maths. I might need to do a lap of the school to help them get a bit of that like anxious energy out of them before they can refocus. What they don't need is being told, like, no, you put your head down, crack on to the work, because it's not always that straightforward. One of the interesting things that came up in the course is that a lot of like trauma responses and behaviors that stem from traumas and how it affects the nervous system can actually present as ADHD symptoms. So, you know, shutting down, inability to learn, all that kind of stuff. Like if you're in that survival mode, which is what trauma causes in your nervous system, your brain just simply cannot take on new information. It can't. Your brain is looking out for saber-toothed tigers more than anything. You're not going to sit down and read a book and do maths homework when your nervous system is panicking and firing off left and right. That's why that regulation is important. But coming back to the culture, the kids need to know that they're safe to express themselves, to tell the teacher or the instructor in the class, I just need 2 minutes. I'm getting a little bit overwhelmed. Do you mind if I sit out? Do you mind if I don't know, we'll have some kids that'll outright bust out a bunch of press ups in the middle of class because they're feeling, I need to move. I can't just be repetitively doing kata or listen to a message. But they've got to fidget. They've got to fidget, man. It's given in that, again, the safe space, the culture where they know they're welcome and like accepted, and that we'll work around them, not expecting them to work around us, because they've been sat in a school or an office all day at a desk staring at a screen. They need to move and they need to do what they got to do for a bit.
I suppose some would say that it causes a disruption to a training, right? Because you don't have a discipline. Everybody's not in lines doing what they've been told. How do you deal with that?
Our classes are fairly sort of freeform anyway. So, you know, we'll have the kids all doing certain drills and, you know, say we're doing pad work. We never really focus on too much rigidity in line work. So we'll give some sort of flexibility on any drill that we're doing. But then if we have a kid who seems to be having a moment, rather than sort of chastising them and telling them, get back to work, focus on the task at hand or whatever, we acknowledge where they're at. We know that they've got no direct control over the way they're feeling. We know that the nervous system is just kind of triggered by, you know, overwhelm, lots of sounds, lots of noises, lots of people knocking about. So we'll tell them, right, do you need 2 minutes? Fine, let's go sit outside. We'll send an instructor outside with them to check in, have a conversation with them. And then we'll just, because we've got a number of instructors and sort of understanding partners at hand, we can always, if there's a kid left without a partner, let's go work in a 3. Let's go work in the punch bags. One of the instructors will come over and help you. There's absolutely no point trying to reason with a kid who's in a heightened state of mind, right? We have big feelings. We can deal with them. We know how to sort of manage. Suppression is not a great word for it. We know how to keep it under control and bring it out at a later time. We can put it in a little box. Kids can't do that the same. If they're having a big feeling, they need that space. Disruptions, fine. I mean, disruptions happen, right? You know, and if somebody's disruptive in class, we'll try and manage it there and then. What we won't do is shout at them, tell them to get back in line, stick to what you're doing. What do you need, basically? Do you need a chat for 2 minutes? Do you need some space? Do you want to go grab a drink real quick? Yeah, it's less easy to manage, but that's not the important thing, right? We don't need everybody in line doing the same thing all the time. Kids come to us to have their time and express themselves and move and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, yes, it does allow for more disruptions, but because of the nature and the culture of the place, it's not the end of the world.
How do you navigate a distinct between a child that has a trauma and a child that just wants to have fun and doesn't want to listen?
We don't know what's going on inside of a kid, right? So most of the time, if a kid has had a traumatic experience, and it could be like a short-term trauma where, I don't know, like the death of a parent, or what we call an adverse childhood experience, the ACEs. There's a big list of, you know, changes in life that can cause trauma. Or it could be something like just constant overwhelm at school because I'm an ADHD kid and the teachers at school don't understand how I'm feeling. So it could be like prolonged, or it could be like a short-term thing. We have no idea, right? If a kid wants to have fun and just turns up, we try and get them back on track where possible. If they seem to be getting overwhelmed, you sort of start seeing the signs that it's overwhelm and not just goofing off. Yeah, we just got to be flexible. We've got to be understanding and flexible. That's the long and short of it. You just got to give the kids the benefit of the doubt. Try and promote discipline where you can. If it's not working, understand that this kind of process takes time. Discipline, confidence, all that kind of stuff, in my opinion, comes from self-esteem, right? And if a kid's in an environment where they're being pushed down, told they're wrong, told they're bad, blah blah blah, then the self-esteem is going to be in the pits. That's going to make everything worse. They're going to act it out more. By having that safe space, the safe adult, the emotionally available adult they can talk to, that they know that they can push boundaries a little bit, but they'll know that they need to control themselves when it's appropriate and that kind of stuff. That self-esteem does grow. They'll know I'm safe, I'm liked, I'm cared for. Eventually that confidence will build. There won't be as much need for disruptive behavior, because they've not that they won't have anything to lash out, but there's not as much pressure building up in their nervous system and in their brain to kind of get that stuff out. You can't distinguish between them. You've got no idea what's going on. And again, we're not therapists. I don't know what behavior is just a kid acting up. But if a kid wants to play, a kid wants to play, right? And we've got to be able to say to them, okay, fair enough. If you're just in that kind of mood, that's all right. Can we try and get back on track for the next kind of drill? Gently kind of guide them into the best behavior without being harsh on them, because harshness is just going to make things worse.
Yeah, I recently starting drifting away from the using the word discipline. I prefer to my kids saying the work ethic,
Yeah.
because it's got a different connotation, a little bit different connotation, and pretty much teaches you the same, right? If you're
Yeah.
doing something, do it the best you can. It doesn't mean perfect, and you need to be disciplined for it. I think we all, from kind of our age, associate discipline with the ruler or something like that, right? With
Possibly,
discipline,
yeah.
you. So, so, so I like to reframe it to my kids. Well, I don't teach children, so it's just to my kids that it's your ethic, how you work. That's how many benefits you're gonna have in the future. If you can sit here and do that mathematics, I know it's uncomfortable. I know you wanna play, but maybe try, like you said, not forcing them. I think they learn that it rewards them. Like my son was struggling with passing his maths exam, like fives or something like that. And they told him to do all you need to do twice a day on a computer, but the test was written down. And we figured out that actually being on a computer doing as quick as possible his mathematics doesn't translate to the examination. So, we sat with him and said, just do as much as you can do test, have a break, come back, we do it again. And within a week he passed. I suppose the same in like in karate, if you choose the right motivations and right explanations and right tools, then you've got better results, right?
Yeah, and that you've used the right word there. It's tools. Courses like this will give you tools and um, guidelines for navigating situations, and it's just about using the right tool for the job at the time. So some kids might need their own space for a minute. Some kids might need to do a lap. Some kids might need to, I don't know, take a bit of space for breathing. They might need a conversation and that kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, we do the adult classes. The vibe is very, very similar in the adult classes. We've got some people who, they've got full-on diagnosed ADHD and autism, and you'll notice sometimes you'll ask them to do kata, and you'll turn around and you'll find them just kind of staring off into space or having a conversation with somebody nearby. That's what they need right then. Okay, and it's, you try and bring them back into the room, try and encourage them back on track. And that's all right. Challenging behavior in kids and adults. If they ask, why are we doing the drill? Why this? Why that? You just give them the explanation. A long and short of it is, you just don't be a jerk with them. You treat them the way that you would hope to be treated, or the way you would hope that somebody would treat your children, with kindness, empathy, and compassion. And that's the two main words that'll get somebody through any like poor mental health. Is compassion and empathy. They need to know that their feelings are valid, and particularly with children, we try to emphasize particularly that every feeling is valid, but the behavior and the outburst isn't necessarily, right. So did you feel angry today? Fair enough, great. A lot of people feel angry. I feel angry sometimes. But is it okay to lash out on other kids? No, it isn't, right? Fair enough. So we've helped them to regulate, get them back into the right frame of mind, and then give them a chance to reflect on the behaviour. And again, it's not a correction; it's a gentle guidance to behaving and managing things properly in the future. Yeah.
Changing the subject a little bit, how did the success impact your own training?
Success in terms of the club.
Yes.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
you're getting busy. I suppose you have not much train time for training yourself.
No, that's right. Yeah, that's always the one of the joys of. I would argue that it's less to do with success and more just to do with the transition between sort of student and instructor roles.
Mhm.
So back in the day when I was training as a student, I would, I'd be at the dojo, 3 hours a night, 4 or 5 nights a week, doing as many classes between karate, kickboxing, fitness classes, sparring classes. I would live at the dojo, right? These days I live at the dojo, and I'm lucky if I get a session in every now and then. Like for example,
Mhm.
yesterday I was lucky that some of the students wanted to work on like grappling drills, so and we had odd numbers. I was like, perfect. I got my gear and I was able to jump in with them and
Mhm.
keep sharpening my sword then. But I don't get to train anywhere near as I would like to, and I find in a way through being through the martial arts being on my mind all the time in the context of work and coaching and everything like that, and then I spend hours a night teaching. That then when it comes to recreation time, one of the last things I want to do is anything related to the martial arts.
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
a break from karate and stuff like that. Yeah, I went through a period because I've earned my fourth dan in December last year. So I went through a period of one-to-one classes with another local instructor for a while gearing up
Mhm.
for that. But it's tough because until fifth dan, there's not as many goals to understand anymore or to set. So yeah, getting the motivation, and I would love to say, yeah, I still train 4 or 5 times a week, but it's just not the reality of it.
Mhm.
But then I feel like I'm at a phase in my journey now where I'm kind of looking for more depth in certain aspects of the martial arts and getting into a more sort of into the theory more that I'll then try and apply in classes. I'm not going to
Mhm.
say that I know it all, that I've learned it all, but now I've got to look for different avenues and things that wouldn't have made sense to me 10 years ago in my training make sense and are easier to apply when I am teaching. So I feel like I get the concepts through learning, but then it kind of locks in through teaching and then applying when I do get the odd chance to spar with members and that kind of stuff.
So what's the future plans for your organization?
So we've got a third club opening next month. We're on a sort of down low. We're not mentioning to a whole lot of people where or what yet, but there's so we've had an instructor who's moved to live to a different town nearby, and she's asked if she can set up a club there. So we're going to give that a go. It's a good location. I'm convinced that we will to carry the sort of the warrior spirit way, as it were, over in that direction, help a lot of people. Beyond that, it's just getting involved with the local community, getting back into schools, dealing with getting face to face with as much kids and people as we can, and like just letting them know like you're not alone. There is a safe space for people like us, people who are going through mental health issues, people who are neurodiverse, a space for you to train. Eventually, I would like to use more of the rooms in the club and hold short term seminars on mental health days. Host, you've kindly offered to host a seminar up here. I'd like to get around to
Mhm.
that before too long. Beyond that, attend as many seminars and I'm a little bit like you. I just love education, so continue educating myself and bringing best practices into our clubs.
Mhm. Awesome. I wish you all the best. Where people can find you.
So we're on social media all over the place. Most places it's Warrior Spirit MA or Warrior Spirit Martial Arts. If they want to drop me emails, I'm Jon at warriorspiritma.co.uk. But all my contact details are available online. Our website is warriorspiritma.co.uk. Our instructor Sai, he's legendary. He's just such a brainiac. He's working on redesigning the site for us right now and kind of promoting the mission as well. So yeah, you can get all sorts of instructor bios and that kind of stuff, blog posts on there as well.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks,
I
Les.
wish you all the best.
Cheers.